This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of AuthorU, your guide to book publishing. And as you all know, that when you listen in, you're going to get a variety of ahas, insights, tips, and how-tos for you as an author, for your book, for your publishing and marketing success. And one of those things that leads into success is actually, how about this, completing your book? Always a good idea. With me is a guest who we've had before, to our pleasure, and I will say delight. How's that sound? And yeah, that is Dan. Janal is back, and Dan has so many hats that he has worn through the years that I have known him. But Dan is an author. He is an expert in publicity. He is an expert on how to get off your tush and write your book incredibly fast. He was a visionary behind the marketing startup of a little company called AOL. But he works with top business leaders who want to elevate their reputations and set them apart from their competition. That is you, dear author. How do you set yourself apart? He's also a book coach, a developmental editor. He ghostwrites, he shapes stories and strategies that can transform you, your book, your career, and your business. So no matter where you are in the book writing process, Dan is here to help. He's the author of Write Your Book in a Flash, and that we are going to jump into some of the elements of it. And just to do a little name dropping, Dan has also interviewed folks like, former President Gerald Ford, First Lady Barbara Bush. So he's been there. He's done that. Dan, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Judith. It's a pleasure to be back here, and I love how you turned my intro into a what's in it for you to the audience. That is brilliant. I've never heard that done. I always learn something new when I listen to Judith Briles, so this is fantastic. I just wish I could attend some of your barbecues at your home. I don't know any other book coach or editor or publisher who extends that level of their personal lives to their readers and their followers. So I wish I lived closer to you in Denver so I could attend one of those. That's a very generous offer. And thank you for having me on your show.
You are so welcome. And you know what Dan's referring to is that authors who are in my circle here, and my circle is Colorado, physical circle is Colorado. So I do once a year a schmooze fest. There is no agenda. There's no nothing. I do the cooking, showing up. And this year, everyone had to be vaccinated. That's a rule. Vaccinated, but we had a great time, so it's great. All right, Dan, let's just kind of jump into it. This is our topic today is something that is near and dear to my heart because, in fact, you will love this. I had a discussion before you and I, we came on the air together with a bookstore owner. And it's a new bookstore here in Colorado, and they're going to do a little book signing and have tables for authors and local authors and books. So I reached out because one of my authors is going to there and see if there's any more room because Dan, I like to pitch other authors when I can. So I was able to secure 3 more spots on that. But she went on about she's insisting everything comes from Ingram. I understand that they do this distribution, but and one of the authors is a children's author, and I was trying to share with her some of the real true challenges that we are seeing from the quality of printing, especially with children's books that come from Ingram in their print-on-demand side. Significantly different, actually, from the Amazon's KDP. Significantly different on the print-on-demand versus the real offset. And she was clueless that there was a difference. She was a difference. So that was interesting as we start our education of it all, I guess. I don't know. Do you run into any of this in what you do?
I'm mainly focused on getting the ideas out of a person's head and into paper. And then I work with people like you to turn that manuscript into a book. And no one knows more about the ins and outs of the quality of publishing and all the hundreds of steps that go into the production of a book than you do. But I'd like to talk about how people can actually finish their book. You know, there are a lot of people out there, a lot of authors, a lot of books out there that say how to write your book. In fact, I wrote a book, How to Write Your Book in a Flash, and I realized that was a very crowded marketplace. Everyone wants to write a book. But here's the real secret. Lots of people don't finish their books. They're hung up by any number of reasons, but there are a lot of people out there who have great ideas. They might have written a first draft, and those books are gathering digital dust on a hard drive because people aren't finishing them for any number of reasons, and that's what I help people overcome.
Oh, Dan, I love the phrase. I have written it down as you said it, and it's like a happy dance. The digital dust. The digital. Is your book guilty of earning a degree in digital dust? Literally. And that's it. 80+% of the population says there's a book in them. Now, Dan, I also say, should it be allowed out? That's another issue.
Well, let's assume this book should be allowed out. Let's assume we have professionals and business owners who are listening on this show who are saying, I started writing this, but I got busy, COVID, whatever, personal reasons, family reasons, things happen. I understand that. But there are a number of reasons that I found that people just put the roadblocks in front of themselves. They may say things like, I have to get a big New York publisher to publish my book. And you and I both know that's not true because self-publishing is very, very well respected today. Right. And they can go to people like you to get their books published and distributed. But I also find that people are talking themselves out of it because they don't have the self-confidence. The imposter syndrome is so big in the world today. People have this, when I was younger, we called it the inferiority complex. Now it's a fancy highfalutin name called the imposter syndrome. Kudos to the person who created that term.
Oh, my gosh.
But it basically... Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the difference between inferiority complex is this, I'm just, I'm not good enough. When I think of an imposter, you're a phony. It's not, it has nothing to do with not good enough, that I don't have the stuff. I mean, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with authors, Dan, who literally, it starts off, I only had one semester at community college. Gag me when you run a multi-million-dollar corporation, when you have pulled it out of the pits when there was internal sabotage going on. Let me tell you, darling, you've got the advanced degree in anything. I'd rather listen to you than some dodo who has a degree that's never been in the trenches. Please.
Exactly, and that's what I tell my clients who give me that same lame excuse. Oh, Professor Smith is the expert on this. He teaches at Harvard. Who am I? Well, you got the degree in hard knocks that, 10 years, 5 years experience working in the trenches with people. You have solutions. You have ideas. You can solve people's problems. And let me tell the readers a tip. The only reason someone wants to read your book is to solve their problems.
Yes.
So if you can write a book that solves people's problems, your phone will never stop ringing with offers for you to get more business, more speaking, more consulting, and more coaching. It is a gateway, so don't talk yourself out of it.
I'm so glad you said that. It's not money that makes the world go around, it's problems. And that If you can solve a problem, which means for us, our fiction writers who are out there, authors, is that you are solving a problem. It's, getting rid of boredom. You're delivering entertainment. And I'll tell you, I find amazing ideas in fiction that works because I'm a nonfiction writer, but I find amazing ideas. And if I can digress, I have to tell a story about phenomenal photographer, John Fielder, who was in search of a map to get to this oddball location somewhere in Colorado that he needed to film for his next landscape type of book. He stopped off in a little general store. In that little general store, Dan, was one of Louis L'Amour's fiction books. He bought it. And inside that book happened to be the map to the place that he was looking for.
You can't make this stuff up, can you?
No. I mean, is that not cool or what? I loved it.
And frankly, you hit on a really important point that I think a lot of our listeners need to know, is that they say, gee, I'm not a good writer. I don't write well enough. My fifth grade teacher gave me an essay back and it was all written in red with red ink and whatever. So it tells them they're not a writer. But I think, when I write, I read John Steinbeck, and I love the way he writes. And there's something about Steinbeck that when I read what he writes, it influences the way I write. So just like your reader found the map to his solution, I think a lot of people on this call can find their voice by taking their favorite author and saying, that's what I want to sound like, and your subconscious starts to mimic that voice, and then you sound like a professional writer because you're copying from the best. You're not really copying, but somehow they're inspiring you. That's a better word. They're inspiring you and your voice.
All right, hold that thought. We're with the fabulous Dan Janal. We're going to have so much more for you. We'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Is there a book in you? Or another? AuthorU shows you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you will find a supportive and brainstorming community that is connected and creative, no matter where you live. AuthorU brings in national experts for its book camps and annual AuthorU extravaganza. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through AuthorU's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. AuthorU is the premier authoring resource in the country, creating community, education, guidance, vision, and success for the serious author. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, AuthorU is for you. Timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted on its social media platforms, and it is free. Discover AuthorU, where authors go to become seriously successful. Join AuthorU today at AuthorU.org.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
With me is Dan Janal. He's a book coach. He has a wonderful book, How to Write a Book in a Flash. Did I say that right, Dan?
How to Write Your Book in a Flash.
Okay, How to Write Your Book in a Flash. And we've already started kissing on a variety of different things that so many people just end up in digital dust. I think my new favorite phrase, at least for today, because they never get across that finish line. It's like I often say, Dan, it's kind of like 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready, 3 to get ready, 3 to get ready, 3 to get ready, and you never go. And so, but what you're talking about is 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 2 for the show, 2 for the show. I'll never show it to anyone because I'm so afraid.
Yeah. We talked about the idea of the imposter syndrome or the inferiority complex. I think we've crossed that bridge. So people say, what else stops people from writing their book? And I think part of it is that they don't know about the publishing. And I'm sure you've gone to the whole idea of self-publishing and all that stuff. So we won't go there. But I think after the publishing is like, how do you sell the book? How do you market the book? And I want to give a simple solution to how business professionals can sell their books. Now, this does not apply for fiction. This does not apply for poetry or memoir, but it applies strictly for the business people who are writing a book to get more business. That's what I focus on. And there are 2 strategies. Here's the one that doesn't work. It's called the hope strategy. And it goes something like this. I hope someone reads my press release. I hope someone reviews my book. I hope someone reads the review of my book and buys my book. I hope that someone goes into Barnes & Noble and sees my book standing out from all the 17,000 other books that are standing with their spine out. I hope they pick up the book. I hope they buy the book. I hope they read the book. I hope they realize that I can help them. I hope they call me. Hope, 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 hope. That's a lot of steps. And I got to tell you, it doesn't work. Here's what works. And it's simple. You find out who your target reader is. That you might read about them in your trade publications. They might write blogs, and they're going to talk about their problems. And you can send your book to that person and say, I noticed in your latest blog or in your interview in the Wall Street Journal or in the trade newspaper that you're having a problem with employee retention. Well, chapter 4 of my book talks about how you can retain employees and have an engaging workspace. Why don't you take a look at it? And if you think we're a good fit, let's have a conversation where I can come in and consult with you or speak to your people or speak at your conference, and we can help each other. That's how you get business. So you are not waiting and hoping that they find you. You are proactive in searching out for your target audience, your best people, the people you like to work with, the people who can afford to hire you. And then your book really has a massive ROI, and that gets you inspired to write your book.
Dan, I have said I till the cows come home, literally, that you have to know exactly who you are writing for. And the kiss of death when someone says, well, everyone should be reading my book. No, they shouldn't. No. Truly, the more you understand the power of the niche factor, of where you can really drill down, exactly where it is, it absolutely ends up going vertical, because then they start talking to their pals and they start doing that. And I love what you just said, that when you're looking at blogs or you see an article, you used a business type book in the area. So whether you see it in Forbes or Inc. or 2.0 or, any of these other, the Wall Street Journal or Business Week, Newsweek, anything online even, what you're seeing where it is, you can see what they're writing about. Just go to the table of contents. The problem is going to be in the title, folks. It's in the title, and read it. And if you can see your book, again, this is for our business book people, nonfiction, that if you can see that you can, help out a little bit, the reaching out is a brilliant idea. Brilliant idea.
And it's so easy and simple to do. And this way you're not waiting for the phone to ring. You're not waiting for that email to come across your desk. It really makes a big, big difference. And, we focused on the who, but here's the big question. The first question you should ask yourself why you're not writing the book. And is like, why am I writing the book? Because if you are not clear on your why, then nothing, no book coach, no developmental editor, no one can can get you to write your book except you, and that's because you need to see your big vision. What is the reason why you're writing the book? It could be different for everyone. For some people, it's like, hey, I want to make a lot of money. For other people, I want to make a difference in the world. For other people, I want to leave a lasting legacy. There could be many, many, many other reasons for writing a book, but if you're not clear about that, and if you're not excited about that, then the book is never going to get done. You have to, because let's face it, writing a book is hard. It takes time. It takes effort. It doesn't happen overnight. And to keep you going through those long, difficult periods when the inspiration is not there, you need to be focusing on your big why, because that is going to propel you through those little dips and gaps of inspiration when and get you to the finish line.
All right, so I'm going to continue in Dan's channel because he does work with a lot of business, a lot of pros out there in getting their books, whether he is, taking what they've done, their chicken scratch, and turning it into taking it out of the digital dust and turning it into magic, or he's got his true writing cap on and he's going to ghost the thing. That their why is often not going to be, well, I want everyone to know my story. The why is to often be a what we call a magnet, a lead magnet, to bring more business, to let people know. Would you say that's true, what your experience is, Dan?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I have clients who actually almost give the book away for free just for shipping. It's a lead magnet. And that way they get people, they get their email address, they form a relationship. In fact, one of the people that I interviewed on my podcast told me that she uses her book to weed out people who are bad prospects and to retain the people who are good prospects, because she gives away the store. She's a brand naming expert. She names products and companies, and her process is totally different than everyone else's. So if you're a medical company, Prilosec and Xilinx and things that look like they came out of like the Latin dictionary or the ancient Greek dictionary, you can't even pronounce or spell these words, that's not her. She creates products like the Baconator and Kiss My Face and Spoon Me, which is a yogurt company in Utah. She has fun names. So if you read her book and say, I want to have a company that has a fun name and a fun product, you're going to hire her. If you're working for the stodgy medical company that wants to have a name that looks like it came out of, Aristotle's playbook when he was talking to Socrates and they're having dinner with Hippocrates, you're not going to hire her, which is great for everyone because you can't work with everyone. You want to work with the people you know or who are fun to work with, who have problems that you love to solve and can afford to pay you. If they have a different philosophy than you do, then you're wasting your time, you're wasting their time. So a book can actually be a great tool in prospecting, so you do attract the right people and you repel the wrong people. So that's another reason to write a book.
Well, I think I love the word repel. Oh, I'm having so much fun with words today.
That's what we do. We're wordsmiths.
We're
word stars.
We are wordsmiths, yeah. Oh, and stars. I like word stars. All right. So the power of the word, but the repelling, that a lot of people think a lot of numbers count. You know what? They don't, unless they're the right numbers. Only if they're the right numbers. So it's really going out. You as an author and an author to be, you need to become a hunter and gatherer. And who's out here? Who's that who? You're going to get that why. Why am I writing this book? What am I bringing to the party for everybody? And you've got to start the hunting. And, for me, Dan, one of the things I have to bang on all the time, because it's going to go back to year number 4 tip was, I don't know how to sell. I don't know how to market. And actually we should say, I don't want to market my book. I don't want to, because that's really a biggie. They don't want to do it. They just want to write.
Yeah, well, that's I guess where you can hire people.
It doesn't work real well. Yeah,
but it doesn't really work. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
The single best marketer is you. Always.
Yeah. And every publisher will tell you that too. I'm sure you've had publishers on your podcast who say, we expect the author to do the heavy lifting. We expect them to do
Absolutely.
the marketing. In fact, when I talk to publishers these days, they have what they call the shared risk model, which I think is wonderful. They're talking about words.
Oh.
They expect you, if you talk to a New York publisher, they will expect you to buy 7,000 copies of your book at about $5 a piece, or 5,000 copies at $7 a piece, whatever, in order to print your book. And that's what they call the shared risk. Well, I'm not quite sure where the sharing comes in. It looks like you're taking $35,000 worth of risk, and they're not taking any risk, because you and I both know it doesn't cost $35,000 to produce a book. It costs a lot less. It does cost money, but it doesn't cost $35,000. So you can self-publish your book, and then you do all the marketing, and here's the beauty. You get to keep all the royalties. You get to keep all the sales. It's all yours. You're not sharing it with anyone. You know, I was listening to a podcast the other day with a very famous author. I won't mention his name. He has sold literally 500,000 copies of his book, which is like friggin' phenomenal. I thought, wow, he must be rolling in the dough. But he was pitching a program afterwards, and I was thinking to myself, man, you sell 500,000 copies of a book. You must be like so rich. Why are you even bothering? And then a friend of mine worked out the math, and she said something like this. You know, an author maybe makes $2 royalty on a book, and he has a co-author, so he made $1 royalty. So you have $500,000 over 10 years. That's not a lot of money when you come to it. It's a nice base, don't get me wrong, but it's nothing to retire on. So you have to constantly market. Everyone does.
You do. We're like 90 seconds away from our next break. I'm going to add to that. You're not going to make $2 a book. Let me just say, if you're anywhere with a traditional market, you will get for the first 10,000 copies, and he sold 500,000. So he's getting like 15% at that rate, 15%. But let's say his book is $20 a book, right? He gets his 15% on the net. His net is around 45%. There's going to be a 55% discount. The net is based on what the publisher gets. So now we're going to chop it in half. It's around $9 a book. He gets 15. He's going to make about $1.35 a book at that level. Most people, 10,000 books and under. If you're in New York, by the way, the average book sale in New York today is 5,000 total books. 5,000. 90% of books sold out of New York publishers, only 5,000 copies. The math is you net 3,000. We'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Discover the power of you and your book at the Judith Briles Unplugged events. Each summer, Judith Briles Book Marketing Unplugged unfolds over 3 intensive days working with just Judith. You get publishing strategies, author and book platforms, book marketing panache and pizzazz, and authoring tools to take you and your book to rock star success. In the fall and winter, Judith Briles Speaking Unplugged includes Judith as your coach and mentor during 2 powerful days. You will learn how to structure a speech, how to create openings and closings, how to find gigs that pay you and sell your books, and you will get one-on-one coaching. Go to thebookshepherd.com and click on the Events tab to learn how to participate at the next Unplugged Workshop event.
Congratulations on getting your book published. The effort you put into your work is truly commendable. But what's next? What will happen to all the knowledge you have worked so hard to acquire to produce your book? Here at TogiNet Radio, we can provide you a platform to keep your knowledge working for you through the power of podcast. The subjects our podcasts cover are as varied as the grains of sand on a beach. From life coaching to military resources to business success, even to the paranormal. We have a place for everyone. To get started on your next step, call Scott at 903-787-5880 or email him at scott@toginetradio.com. That's SCOTT at TOGINETRADIO.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, here with me is Dan Janal, who I've always loved to talk with Dan, and I keep thinking, why don't we play more together? Oh, because he lives in Minnesota. Okay, so, but anyway, that it's the reality and the truly the bottom line, where he was referring to the author who sold 500,000 copies and he must be rolling in dough. The reality is, by the time you get down to the net, and what Dan and I figured out, which we will not say who it is, what publishers involved, they are lucky to be getting 30 cents a book. Okay, so now we're talking about marketing, and that's the key. You have to I cannot say this more times. You have to learn how to trust what you do and get out there and be willing to tell the world about it, whoever your world is, and why it'll benefit with them, how you solve their problems. Dan, let's do a transition. Let's talk about getting the book there. So what's this thing called developmental editing?
Sure. You know, a lot of people have never heard that term before. They know about proofreaders, they know about copy editors, and I like to use an analogy. You know, like, let's pretend you're going on a TV show, and I'm sure a lot of people who are listening have gone on TV shows, and if you haven't, you've probably seen movies and television shows where someone is sitting in the green room, they're about to go on a show, and this woman comes over and applies the makeup. Well, that's the copy editor. They're making you look good. They're getting rid of your wrinkles and your brown spots and all that other stuff. They're making you look good. That's a copy editor. And then it's about a minute before the show, and you're sweating a little bit, and another person comes over, and she's putting like some powder and foundation on you or whatever, you know, to get rid of the little perspiration and all that. You know, that's the proofreader. They're making sure that all the periods are there, all the commas in the right place, the numbers line up. You know, if you say you have 5 tips, they make sure that you have to like 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there's 5. Okay, good. Okay, yeah, good. So then the producer comes over and says, "Okay, you're on. Let's go." And you get up and you walk into the studio and you see the bright lights and you see the cameras and you see the audience and you see the host, and you're saying, "Oh my God, what am I going to talk about?" Well, that's where the developmental editor comes in. But they come in at the very beginning because they're the ones who help you shape your ideas. They see what you don't see, and they make your ideas better. I was working with one author recently. He's a former NFL player, and he was writing a book for college athletes on how to succeed in the real world. And he had an outline. It was a really good outline about how to be inspired and how to do all the right things and all that good stuff. And we were just chatting one day, and he said, "You know, I wish students would take more advantage of the placement office." And I said, "Placement office? What's that?" He said, "Oh, every college athletic department has a placement office for their student athletes so they can get jobs after school." I said, "Oh, wow, that's really interesting. You know, I don't see that in the outline for your book. Do you think we should include that?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, what a good idea." You know, he was so close to his material, he couldn't see the forest for the trees. So that's just one of the many, many ways that a developmental editor can come in and help you make your ideas better because they see things that you don't see. I was working with another woman who was writing a self-help book for women. And this is a fascinating story. Her audience were women between the ages of 35 and 50 who have children who no longer need them. And you say, "What? Children who no longer need their mothers? How could that possibly be?" Well, when they're 6 years old, it's "Mommy, come here. Mommy, I need you. Mommy, help me." When they're 16 years old, it's "Hey, Mom, give me some space. Leave me alone. Don't leave the door. Hit you on the way out." So she knew her audience. But let's face it, all self-help books are basically the same. You know, breathe, eat right, meditate, walk, get exercise, yada, yada, yada. Okay, what makes it different are your stories. So in the middle of chapter 3, there was this story with a subhead that went something like this. The subhead said, "Excuse me for being gross." And the story went something like this. I had this earthworm emerging from my belly. It's 1/4 of an inch wide and 4 inches long. It's my stretch mark. It shows where I gained 180 pounds bearing 4 children, and I've lost all but 20 of those pounds. But I wear it as a badge of honor because it shows that I brought forth 4 great kids who are going to make a difference in this world.
Love it.
And exactly. I said, Amber, this is your signature story, and you're burying it in chapter 3. We got to move this up front. And she readily agreed. She thought it was great. I thought this is perfect because every person who is in her target audience has been in this situation. They're all mothers, and they might have stretch marks, and they all gained weight. And let's face it, everyone has trouble losing that last 20 pounds, including men. So it's bound to make her seem real and authentic. So we put that in the front of the book, and then I had this inspiration. And this is where a really excellent developmental editor separates themselves from the average developmental editor. We put it in the front of the book, and I said, Amber, I have this idea. Because right now her book was called Get Your Life Together or Have an Inspired Life, whatever, Amber's, the 5-step Amber method, A stands for this, M stands for that, B stands for whatever. Okay, no problem. Boring. Yeah, traditional but boring. No, but you have to have a starting point. No problem. So I said, Amber, what better name for a book that talks about going beyond your boundaries, pushing the envelope, painting outside the lines than stretch marks?
God, do you know, I knew that's what you were going to say, Dan. I knew. Okay, so here's where I'm seeing Amber, if that's her name, seeing Amber coming on a stage with like a tape measure. And I would, to say, because see, this is what I take my developmental editing that I work in, because I'm going to turn it into a speech. And I could see her coming on the stage with a tape measure. And as she's talking, and I would have it at my waist, like the belly button, that's what we're doing here. And I would have it, and I would start pulling it out just a little bit at a time. Just a little bit at a time with each step, each segment. And her audience, when she comes back, that's the opening story from the stage, the opening stories. And she can ask, where are your stretch marks? Where is your success at what inch? You could do so much visually with that would just sink in and stick to the audience visually in their mind.
That is brilliant. You might, people on listening say, like, that's really great, but I'm really not a speaker. That's okay. Amber isn't a speaker either. She runs women's retreats. So for those of you listening who are in the retreat business and the seminar business, you can write a book to help promote that kind of business for you. Because let's face it, some people are afraid to speak in public. So I want to say there are a lot of other reasons to write a book. It really does work. I was just talking to another one of my developmental editing clients today, and he has a name that means something in another language. And I said, this is fantastic, because he explained what his name meant. His first name meant heart, and his last name meant master. And I thought, oh, wow, he's writing a leadership book. This is a perfect tagline for his branding, where the heart meets your mind, or your mind meets your heart. Either way, it works. But that's what a good developmental editor can bring to the table. So, yeah, they look at your stories, and I've worked with other people who tell stories that may not prove the points that they thought they were making because they're too close to the fact, or copy editing or proofreading. That's really not what a developmental editor does. But I've worked with my clients who say that they've gotten a course in writing because I point out what was weak and what could be made better. But the really good developmental editors see a picture that you don't see, and they not only do they read between the lines, so to speak, they see things that you don't see because we've read so many other books. We've worked with so many other people in so many other industries and environments, so we can pick and choose and learn from those industries and then bring it to you so you get the best of all worlds.
Well, the other factor also, Dan, is that every author, I don't care how many books you've written, or if this is your little toe going into the water for the first time, is you're so close to it that you don't see. And that when you have someone coming in with fresh eyes, and the fresh read, they're gonna automatically pull something out. As you were telling about Amber's story, I was already at the stretch marks before you finished. I was there. And going that, and
some
now
of us are intuitive, Judith. Intuitive people are like the best.
Yeah,
we live in the world of ideas, and that's what turns us on.
We do, and I'm putting her on the stage, so she's running retreats. Great, let's market your retreat, sweetheart. Get out there and let's say, how do yours measure up? And then go back. Anyway, you could have so much fun. What we're telling all of you, you can have fun. This is fun.
I
when we get into this.
I'm sorry for overriding you. When I heard Ken Blanchard speak. He keynoted a writers' conference that I was at, and I went up to him afterwards, and he said that he wrote 70 books, all of them with co-authors. And I went up to him during the break, and I said, "Why did you write 70 books with co-authors? You're brilliant. You could do this all yourself."
Yeah.
And he said, "I learn so much from other people." Now, isn't that humble? Isn't that, Ken Blanchard, the one-minute manager who moved my cheese, the man who sold more books than anyone. And yet he learns from other people. I think that's what authors can do when they work with a developmental editor. They learn so much about their ideas. I'm working with a chiropractor now who's doing some really, really good work, but we're going back and forth on ideas because I'm not a chiropractor. I'm not in the wellness industry, but I know enough to, I don't want to say be skeptical, but to push back professionally and respectfully, because some people would push back, and we have to address those issues because people are going to read the book and you have to be prepared for those kinds of possible criticisms or possible objections. So we want to address that so people can see you as the true expert that you are, because you are handling all of those issues and like sales objections that you would expect to have in a sales call. You need to answer those questions in a book too. So I think it's really important to work with a developmental editor, because another myth about writing is that, the myth of the lonely writer. You have to work alone in a garret and whatever. No, writing is a team exercise. It's a community sport. You need people to help you, to guide you along the way.
All right. And with that said, we're going to take our final break. But here's what I want, Dan, when we come back with Dan Janal and his wisdom, let's talk about ways to get you across that finish line. That, and I'm also a huge believer, and we're going to come back to the coaching because I do the coaching too, that there is not a professional athlete who doesn't have a coach out there. Why don't you? My question. We'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Are you confused about publishing options? Do you know which printing option is best for your book? Does your stomach flip when you think about selling books? Or do you feel overwhelmed with what to do about book marketing and publicity? Get the answers and much more. Get them, and from someone who knows publishing inside and out, from both the traditional and independent sides, how to make a successful book. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand and platform, and is a success, a bestseller. It is your choice. You choose. If you want author and publishing success, you want Judith Briles as your book coach. Sign up for her weekly blogs and e-zine at thebookshepherd.com. The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and guide to collaborate with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You do not need more problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and chaos. At times, she has had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher, by a publishing service provider, and sometimes even by the author. If you want author and book success, connect with her today at thebookshepherd.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
I always love to spend time with smart people and people who understand publishing, which is kind of my passion. That's my purpose. Showing people how to get their words out there successfully so they look smart, they look sharp, they present well, and then, teaching them how to do that presenting to support that, and so they can make money and sell far more than the average self-published author sells, which was, by the way, 100 books. All right. So with that said, we want to get you across the finish line. So Dan Janal has given us some great things about why people get stuck from roadblocks, their lack of own internal confidence, that they really don't get the publishing business and what's expected. They don't know how to sell, and they didn't really articulate the why of what they were doing. Why did they want to go to this route? Let's say you got all those things together. How do we get you across the finish line? Dan, where are we going to start?
Okay, let's start where we left off the last commercial break. It takes a village to write a book. It really,
yes,
really
it does. Yep.
And that starts with a coach. And you say, why don't more people have book coaches or developmental editors? And frankly, between you and me and everyone listening, I don't know where book coaching ends and developmental editing begins. Maybe other people do, but I lump them all together because you need a coach to hold you accountable, to give you feedback on your ideas. So that's where book coaching and developmental editing intersect. In fact, I started a mastermind group for book coaches and developmental editors, which is something that you and I can talk about privately. But in any case, when you have those people on your team at the very start, then you know that you're going to have a good flight plan, so to speak. You're going to have a good outline. And I tell people you'll never face the blank page syndrome or writer's block, as they call it, if you have a good outline. So if you can think of, say, 8 problems that you like to solve, that's the core of your book. The first chapter it tells your signature story, so they get to know, like, and trust you. And the last chapter is your call to action chapter, so they can say, well, here are all the things we do. Here's how you can work with me and take it further. So that's your book. And then if you have a detailed outline, then every single day when you go to write your book, you're going to know what you can write about, because there's so many options. And I say options. So some days we all have biorhythms. Some days you want to tackle the tiger, and some days you can barely stay awake. Well, on those days you say, well, I'm going to have quotes at the beginning of my book. I'll just go to Brainy Quote and get some quotes here, some inspirational quotes for these chapters, and then I'll call it a day. That's fine. And on other days you say, wow, I really am inspired to write this great story or this great idea. That's when you write those. And in that way, you will finish your book. And I guarantee that anyone can write a book in 4 months if you spend 15 minutes a day to write 250 words. If you do the math, that's 20,000 words. That's all a book needs to be today. It does not have to be this 40,000 word or 400-page opus. No one wants to read that stuff. I tell people that people want to read a book when they get on, they want to start a book when they get on a plane in New York and finish it by the time they land in Los Angeles. And I said this on a show one time, and someone interrupted me, and they said, no, they want to finish the book by the time they cross over Chicago. And I think they're right.
It's true, yes.
So we're talking about a 20,000-word book. So the book coach and the developmental editor can help you, keep you on track, and give you feedback to make sure that you're doing it right so you don't get off on the wrong foot. a client the other day sent me his first draft, and without any book coaching, without any developmental, he just did it on his own. In fact, it was revision 23 in the file name, and I looked at it, and it's like it was garbage. It was it was so bad, and I mean, words were capitalized in the middle of sentences for no good reason. It was a financial thing, and he kept on using these terms, these two terms interchangeably when they were different terms. And I wrote back to him and said, this book is not ready for publication, and I told him the reasons why. And I mentioned that very thing about those two terms. He said, oh, well, my grammar checker looked at those and just substituted one for the other. And I'm thinking, you didn't even double check your grammar checker? You just let a computer tell you what to do? It's like, oh man. So you really need a book coach and a developmental editor to help guide you along the way. But people are going to say, well, how do I find one? Who's a good one? Well, they don't have to be an expert in your subject, but they should be interested. They should have a wealth of information. And if they're referred by someone you know, like, and trust, so much the better. So they're not going to know more about you than your topic, but they may know enough to be, if they're not interested in your topic, then that's a clear sign. I mean, if someone comes to me and says, I want to write a memoir about women and the problems they have, I'm not the right person. If they're doing a book about relationships and parenting, I don't have kids. I'd be a really bad person for that. But any kind of business topic, personal finance topic, even wellness and motivational and leadership topics, I'm at the top of the game because I've read lots of books in those areas, and I know what's topical and I know what isn't. And frankly, I know when you're stealing other people's stuff, unintentionally, I might add, because people like Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy are brilliant, and they have quotes that have come into the nomenclature. Give everyone, if you want to get what you want, give everyone what they want, or you're the sum of the 5 people that you hang around with. Those are famous quotes from very, very famous people who are no longer with us. And if you use those quotes without attribution, you're going to look like you're stealing. So you want to have someone who knows what's going on to make sure your ideas are good, are relevant, and are going to be evergreen, so you can sell this book for a good long time.
I think that you're echoing a lot where I come from here too, and that I think it's important for in book coaching, which I do book coaching and book publishing coaching. A little bit. I'm going to get that thing out there. That you want someone who really is well read, who is really knowledgeable of what's going out there. I don't know about you, Dan. I read 50 to 100 books minimum a year. I mean, besides all the stuff I'm working on, I did 3 books this past year, all in the opioid area. Let me tell you, I know a heck of a lot about opioids and what's going on, which if you talked to me 2 years ago, opioids, what the hell? So, but that you really want someone who is out there. It's so, so important, and who will help guide you. I want to do a little ad on the Brainy Quote thing. I believe, dear author, that you are the Brainy Quote. And I am not a fan of quoting dead old white men. I'm just, I am not a fan of it. If you've got that manuscript together and one of the things that I do as a coach, when I'm going through, I am looking for the chewy sentences, the chewy lines, the chewy phrases within there, thinking, damn, this would be a great lead. This would be a great lead for this chapter. I'm looking for things where you can quote yourself so that you don't have to worry about Zig Ziglar. You don't have to worry about Brian. And I have to tell you, my favorite Brian Tracy, Brian and I were in Nightingale Conet. Do you remember them? In Chicago, doing tapes. I was doing a tape on confidence. I had written a book called The Confidence Factor, and Brian was coming in the studios right after me, and he said, Judith, I love your book. I refer to it all the time. I quote it all the time. And I said to Brian, well, I hope you give me credit.
I love it. Yeah, Judith, I have to play off that because I was speaking to. I told you about that NFL author who's writing a book for student athletes, and I told him about starting a chapter off with a quote because it inspires people, and I really do believe that. And I said, you don't want to have old dead white people use the same line that you did, and so he came back to me. and he shows me the first chapter, and it is lyrics from rap songs and hip hop songs, and Dr. Dre, and they're like, oh my God, this is perfect. That's the audience he's reaching. They will respect someone in hip hop and music, whereas they won't know who Helen Keller. That's not going to inspire them, or Thomas Edison. Yeah. So he knew his audience, and he got the right quotes that would inspire his audience. So again, that's where developmental editor comes in. I've had other clients who say, gee, well, if they didn't have coaching questions, or they didn't have surveys, or they didn't know what the wheel of life was, or they didn't know other kinds of tools that you and I know about because we've read so much, and they only know what they know. They don't know what they don't know. And that's where a book coach and a developmental editor can come in and add real value that takes your book from good to great.
And one of our jobs is to make you look great, by the way. That's part of our job, to make you as an author look really good, really, really good. And that I think what's important, and Dan, we haven't kissed on this. I know we have we're coming up to the final thing here. But I think it's also important that you take a look at maybe some of the things that they've had their hands on, because I don't know if you've experienced this, Dan, but I've actually seen some editors take over books that becomes their book. And it's not in the voice of the author. And, a lot of authors have great ideas. They just are crappy writers. Okay, so we're going to fix that for you. We'll fix that for you. But it's got to be in your language. It's got to be in your deal. So looping back to your author who used rap and things like that, which I'm assuming, please, you have written permission to use all that. You can't use lyrics unless you get permission. That would makes a difference in the book, and it's relevant. So just my 2 bits. We have a minute left. Dan, final nugget from you.
Okay, you can write a book. A lot of people think you have to be a celebrity to write a book, and that's not the truth. I mean, you can go into Barnes and Noble and see this area at the front of Barnes & Noble. Every bookstore has this. They're the remainder books, the books for $1, books for $5, and it's Oprah, and it's Barack Obama, and it's every movie star you ever heard of, and every TV star, and every celebrity. Once they stop marketing, people can't give the books away. So you can write a book, and it's up to you to market the book, but also have clear goals on what you want the book to do for you, and I'm sure that you can do well, and you can write your book in a flash.
Great. Dan, how do people get a hold of you?
Go to writeyourbookinaflash.com. I have a number of free resources there. You can get on my mailing list when you download any of my free resources. I do seminars all the time and challenges all the time, so for free, so you can get into those and learn even more about how to write your book in a flash.
All right, everyone. Have a great writing week. We'll see you next week. This is Judith Briles. It's AuthorU, your guide to book publishing. And Dan, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles.